Great Nature has always and likely will always be one of the most fun clans in the game. While it used to rely on making massive columns and attacks by buffing your units and then killing them at the end of the turn, sometimes resulting in you getting draws or unflipping damage, it works a bit differently in the V-Series now. The main mechanic for Great Nature seems to be that you're going to be milling the top card of your deck and getting bonuses based on what you mill. But to fully understand this, let's jump into the Grade 1, and luckily we're starting off with a good example of it, as alphabetical order sometimes works out. So, first card we have is MONOCULUS Tiger. This card has the Vanguard and Rearguard ability that when it boosts or attacks, you can Soul Blast 1, put the top card of your deck into the drop zone, and perform one effect depending on what you mill. If it's a normal unit, then your opponent can't call Sentinels from their hand for that battle, and if it's a trigger, your opponent can only call triggers from their hand for that battle. It's a really unique way to add guard restriction. There's a bit of RNG to it, but if you're noticing the cards in your deck and you're being aware of that, you can kind of plan for what's likely to happen. Either way, it makes your opponent's guard much more difficult, and as one of your vanguards can occasionally get an extra crit, this can be pretty nice. So I'm giving it a 4-star card. It adds a lot of pressure to the deck, and it's a super cool card. Next up we have Pencil Squire HAMMSUKE, which is probably a fan favorite for the clan. This card has a continuous rearguard ability that if your vanguard is Pencil Hero HAMMSUKE, it gets 4,000 power, which is pretty good. It also has the rearguard ability that at the end of your turn you can Soul Blast 1, put it into your soul, and search your deck for one Pencil Knight HAMMSUKE. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. This is something that's pretty cool, as let's say you open up with 2 grade 1s, with this being one of them. You can simply ride the other unit, call this, and essentially guarantee that you're hitting a grade 2. Anyways, 4 stars for HAMMSUKE, but in my build at least I'm not running Pencil Hero HAMMSUKE, and that does take away from it. Next up we have Silver Wolf. This is a really cool looking card as far as design, and it has the ability that in the back row it gets plus 4,000 power. So it's a very simple card, but it is super effective. Boosting for 12 has traditionally been pretty strong in V-Series, and I'm assuming it will continue to be. Again, 4 stars. Now I know that you've all been saying he's probably just giving 4 stars to all the grade 1s, but here we have Speculate Chipmunk. Another grade 1 Sentinel, another useless card. So 1 star, don't run it, there's so many better options. Following that we had my personal favorite Great Nature card from the old set of Vanguard, and that is Stamp C OTTER. This has the continuous ability that it cannot be retired by card effects on rearguard, which is really cool because you can target it. So for as long as Shadow Paladin is a relevant clan, this is a pretty solid card. Basically, anytime that they say choose some of your rearguards to get rid of, you choose Stamp C OTTER and you're fine. So that's pretty damn good. It also adds some immunity to clans like Kagero obviously, but in general, it's pretty good. I don't really run it right now as there isn't too much retiring effects in the meta, but if they ever return, this card is great. And because of that, I'm giving it 4 stars. And the final good grade 1 that we have to talk about is Tank Mouse. This has the rearguard ability that once per turn when a card is put into your drop zone, you can counterblast 1 and return that card to your hand. And of course you can only return 1 card even if several were put there at the same time. Because you're going to be milling cards so regularly with all of the tigers, this can be pretty cool. It allows you to get back some really key card. Let's say a Leopold if you mill one by accident, or a Bison, or another Tiger, or even a Perfect Guard. So this adds a lot of utility to the deck and it makes it very consistent, so I'm giving it a 4 stars. And of course we have our 9k vanilla with no guard in Triad Dog. This is garbage, 2 stars. Onto the grade 2s, we have Barcode Zebra. At first I wasn't too crazy about this card, but I have been running it a little bit. It has the rearguard ability that when a card is put into your drop zone from your deck, it gets plus 5,000 power to the end of the turn. You're going to be milling pretty regularly as I mentioned, and this card can get pretty big because of it. So let's say you have 2 columns with Monoculus Tiger boosting Binoculus Tiger, and this on an extra rearguard circle. You're milling 4 cards as it is. This card's now up 30 in total with the Excel boost. And I hear 39's a big number. So 4 stars, it's pretty cool. 4 might be a bit much, but I think it's a pretty good card to run. And we have our first 5-star card in Binoculus Tiger. It has the ability on Vanguard and Rearguard that when it attacks, you can counterblast 1, put the top card of your deck into the drop zone, and perform 1 effect depending on what you mill. If it's a normal unit, you draw a card. Counterblast 1 draw is okay. And if it's a trigger unit, you retire one of your opponent's rearguards, and 3 of your units in the front row get plus 5k. That's pretty damn good. So this card gets 5 stars, it's your bread and butter card in your grade 2 slot, you're definitely running it, and if not, you probably shouldn't be playing this deck. Next up we have Idle Teacher HATSUNE. This card on rearguard has the ability that when it hits a vanguard, you can Soul Blast one and draw a card. So that effect is pretty good actually, but it's on an 8k body, and it just isn't too regular that it's actually going to hit a vanguard. But overall, I could see people running this, I just personally don't. So I'm going to give it a 3 stars for now. We are back with HAMMSUKE with Pencil Knight HAMMSUKE, and this card has the ability that if your vanguard is Pencil Hero HAMMSUKE, you're getting 3000 power. It also has the vanguard ability that during the battle that it attacked, if you have a Pencil Squire in your soul, it gets plus 5000 power. So it's a pretty cool continuous ride chain where you're basically guaranteeing it with Pencil Squire, getting into this and getting the power boost, but overall you'd be more running them as a consistency factor than you would an actual power factor. So because of that, I'm going to give it 4 stars. It's pretty consistent, it adds a lot to the deck, and if you're running the hero build, you know, it's pretty cool. And we have this really interesting spin on the boosted interceptors with TOOLBOX WALLABY. So as opposed to a lot of the 10k guard units just being vanilla, this card has the ability that when it intercepts specifically, it gets plus 10,000 power shield. So a 15,000 shield is nothing to laugh at, but because it has to be on the field, that takes away a lot of its utility, and I'm going to give it 2 stars because of that. And the final grade 2 that we're going to be taking a look at, which is for some reason out of alphabetical order, is GEOGRAPH Giant. This card is super powerful. I'm giving it 5 stars for sure. It has the ability that on an extra rearguard circle, it gets plus 8,000 power consistently. That is on both turns, which is super strong. This means it's a 17k base, and on your turn with the Excel boost, it'll be at 27. That's really goddamn strong, and it combos well with a lot of the grade 3s in the deck. So 5 stars, you're running this card without a question. On to the grade 3s, we have Armed Instructor BISON. This is one of my favorite cards in the deck. It reminds me a lot of the old Polaris card. It has the ability on Vanguard and Rearguard that when it attacks you can Counterblast one, give another Rearguard unit 5,000 power, and if this card's on Vanguard, you're actually standing that unit as well. For example, you can swing with GEOGRAPH Giant at 27,000 power, and then you can swing with Bison on Vanguard, stand GEOGRAPH Giant, and then it can swing again for 32,000 power. Which is, you know, okay to say the least. All that combines to make a very powerful card, and I'm giving Bison 4 stars. Next up we have Heavy Brain MORMODON. It has the Vanguard ability that you can Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 grade 3, and until the end of your turn, all of your front row units get plus 10,000 power and your opponent can't intercept. So it's a very strong effect, but the fact that he doesn't have a gift marker, and the fact that he can only use this on Vanguard make him a bit weaker. So I'm going to give him 3 stars. I could see you running him, but like, why? I just think there's so many better options. And that better option comes in the main form of School Hunter Leopold. So if you have a grade 3 in your soul, this unit's auto abilities and when placed abilities will trigger twice, which is a pretty unique ability. So what auto abilities does he have? Well, when placed, put the top card of your deck into the drop zone and perform one of the effects below depending on that card's type. If it's a normal unit, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck and call 2 grade 2s or less from them onto rearguard circle, then you shuffle your deck. If it's a trigger unit, you're getting plus 15,000 power and a critical until the end of the turn, which is also good. Now of course, depending on the situation, either skill is much better than the other one, but let's say you're behind, you can essentially call 4 cards from your deck without really losing any advantage just for playing this from hand. And if you're way ahead, and you happen to pull 2 triggers, you're getting plus 30k and 2 crit, which you can add guard restrict with MONOCULUS Tiger. So that's super powerful. Leopold is by far probably my favorite card in the deck. It has a lot of nostalgia with the old Great Natures, so I'm giving it 5 stars. This is easily my favorite way to build the deck. And the final card we're looking at is Pencil Hero HAMMSUKE. We've seen him mentioned a couple times so far. So on Vanguard, when placed, if you have a Pencil Knight and a Pencil Squire in your soul, you can discard 2 cards, get an extra gift circle, and search your deck for 1 Pencil Knight HAMMSUKE and 1 Pencil Squire HAMMSUKE, and then call them onto rearguard. So this card's actually pretty cool. It unfortunately doesn't do anything if you didn't ride the other 2, but if you did, it adds a very strong turn. So I'm giving it a 3 stars because I don't personally run it. I don't think that it's consistent enough because yeah, you have a way of getting that grade 2 pretty regularly, but if you miss the grade 1, then you're just kind of hoping you draw into Pencil Knight. And if you don't have Pencil Knight, then there's no other way to get him into your soul, which is a big issue. So because of the inconsistency, I'm giving him a 3 stars. I completely understand people running him, but I just think it's a lot safer to run the Leopold build. So with all that being said, let's look at the actual deck itself. I am running 4 copies of Leopold and 3 of Bison. I think that's pretty much enough for the deck. If you wanted to splash in a pencil hero, I would completely get it, but I personally don't. I run 4 Binoculus Tiger, 3 Pencil Knight HAMMSUKE, and 3 Geograph Giants, as well as 2 Barcode Zebra. As far as the grade 1s, we're going with 4 Monoculus Tiger, 3 Tank Mouse, 3 Pencil Squires, and 2 Silver Wolves. The trigger lineup, I'm running 6 front, 2 crit, 4 draw, and 4 heal. The reason for that is that you typically have a bunch of cards on your field, and you can push that advantage even easier with Leopold. I always run at least 2 crits in this style of deck because if they get to the point where they can just take a Vanguard attack, then that kind of lowers the pressure, but if they see a crit, it throws them off, and they aren't entirely sure what they should do. It's just a little bit of pressure that comes in and really messes with your opponent's head, and that can be a big difference for you. And of course, the starter's the Parrot. But overall, Great Nature's a super fun clan. I cannot recommend it enough, and you should definitely try it out. It's very aggressive, it does struggle against some retiring decks, and if you've faced a lot of those, or if there's a lot of them in your area, maybe run Stamp Sea Otter. You can also run the full crit build, which is pretty aggressive but pretty fun. Overall, this is the one that I'm finding the most success with though. With all that being said, I do want to of course shout out Decimus, who's supporting me on Patreon. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe. And of course, if you do, you're getting extra entries into the Win-A-Box for Answer of Truth. If you're interested in that, just subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment, and hopefully you win. The draw's actually going to be on Friday, so I'll see you then with the results. With all that being said though, this has been Miracle Trigger. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you with the Genesis video either tomorrow or Friday.